welcome to the Fiber Tales podcast. My name is Lærke, and this is a podcast about knitting and sewing and knitwear design and all kind of stuff. And today is a special episode because I have a special guest with me.
Hi.
So, I thought maybe you would like to introduce yourself.
My name is Jule, and I am the dyer and owner behind Woollentwine Fiber Studio. And I produce and sell and make naturally dyed yarns that have been sustainably sourced, and that's basically what I do.
She makes really beautiful yarn, and if you've been following my podcast for a while, you know I talked about her yarn before, and she lives. Did you say you live in Hamburg?
Oh no, I live in Hamburg, in the northern part of Germany.
So it's actually not that far from here. It's 4 hours drive with the car.
3.5 to 4.
So she came up here to do a little project, and I was very happy that she could stay nearby. So what is it you're doing here?
Yeah, it's actually a big project for me because I've always been dreaming, apart from dyeing, I've been dreaming about producing my own yarn that I really know where it comes from and where it has been produced. And so I decided to find a shepherd who's going to sell me wool that's very local to me, from a place where I drive by pretty often. So I found a shepherd and I brought it here to get my first yarn spun at don't get me on this, Hjelholt Uldspinneri.
Yeah, Hjelholt Uldspinneri. It was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
So I have my yarn spun at Hjelholt, and it's one of the only small spinning mills in this area, and actually for you too.
Yeah,
right?
it's the closest to me actually, because I live in the north of Germany, and actually there are mills in Germany, but there are more kilometers between where I live and those mills than it is to Fyn actually.
Yeah. So we are 20 minutes away from, half an hour away from the mill where I am, and she's staying at a very nice Airbnb nearby. So that's really nice to have a guest here for once. It pretty much never happens.
Yeah.
And where do I live?
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere. We came here, and the first suggestion or thing was my boyfriend said, "Oh God, this is the middle of nowhere."
Yeah.
Actually,
So
it's wonderful. I mean, it's really nice, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
And we tried to record outside today because it's really hot. It's probably one of the hottest days of the year, and it's 1 o'clock or something. So it's the afternoon heat. Is midday heat.
Yeah.
What do you call that? Yeah.
You can already see our brains are not working.
Yeah. We're gonna have some water. No coffee or anything today. Just water.
Mm.
Oh. And the chickens are walking around over here. You like the chickens too, right?
Yeah. I love them.
We have been. You came 2 days ago.
Yeah.
2 days ago. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
met yesterday, and have been walking around and seeing things a little bit. And I thought it would be fun to have Jule come and join the podcast, because it's just to hear a different point of view, and also because you know a lot about natural dyeing. So I think we will talk a bit more about the natural dyeing process.
Yeah.
I think that would be very interesting to hear about. I don't have much knitting, and neither do you. At least not that we can share.
Yeah.
We're both knitting on some secret projects, so we cannot share those, which is always good for a podcast, right?
Yeah.
But you did get something when you went to Hjelholt.
Yes, actually, they are producing a new yarn line that's actually very locally and regionally produced from their own flock of sheep, right?
Yeah, they have a lot of sheep at Hjelholt, so this yarn is made from their sheep.
Yeah.
Or their wool.
Yeah.
And actually they changed to organic this year, I think, to organic farming.
Yeah.
So it means this yarn is basically organic, even if it doesn't say on the label.
Yep.
In Denmark, the rules are it's a couple of years before you can call things organic. So, and I don't know if the spinning process is organic or how it works in the yarn business, but
I think getting certificates is pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's a different thing than
EU.
with the farming, right? So, but the sheep are kept in an organic on fields that are not sprayed and so on, which is very nice.
Yeah, and
we like that.
Yeah,
Don't we?
like that a lot.
We like that.
Yeah, and it's like worsted weight, and it's very there's a lot of air in it, and it's very lightly spun, so it still has a little bit of drape. I don't know if you can see, but it's you can knit it up, I think, on a 4 to 4.5 millimeter needles, or even larger, depending on what kind of gauge you want. And yeah, it's really nice. It has this kind of a rustic feel, but it's still
I think
very
I would go
soft.
for 5 maybe for this one.
Yeah, maybe.
Like I normally would for worsted.
Yeah,
5 millimeters.
maybe like that, depending on how loose you're knitting, or
Of course, gauge is always
yeah.
like the needle size is just an indication, right? It depends on your style of knitting.
Yeah, exactly.
What did they say?
They recommend
5,
like a 5.
5 millimeters. So.
Yep.
And Jule doesn't really have a web shop or anything. You can buy it from different places online, but they have a little shop connected to the mill. So, did you have a tour when you were there? Did you see?
No, because of the virus.
Ah, yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, we couldn't really go around, but we saw some of the old machines, and it was
They're really
amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, it was something completely new to me, because I mean, I've tried hand spinning, and I do somehow have an understanding of how spinning works, but those machines, they are like very old and very traditional, and it was so amazing to see how they are making the yarn. And yeah,
exactly. It's a family-owned business, and they brought the machines over from UK like in the 30s or something like that. They're really old, so when something breaks, it's also not very easy to
I can imagine
get it fixed.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be very nice. You're gonna dye on it?
I'm going to dye on this one, yeah.
Yay.
And there's going to be a special project coming with this one, so let's see.
Yeah, I think we will talk more about that in the future.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you... No, you just handed over your yarn when you were
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I can tell a little bit more about the sheep and where it comes from. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
something.
I think that's interesting.
It's a sheep breed that's called Rhönschaf in German, and it's a German breed. And it's actually, as far as I know, it's on the red list for endangered breeds. So it's very nice to know that I can like contribute something to maybe keeping this breed alive. And it's from a place that's very close to my boyfriend's parents, and I know that the sheep there are very lucky and always grazing outside, and also they are not only kept for the wool or meat or anything, but they are also kept to keep the dikes, like help and keep the dikes well. Like they help to cut the grass or eat the grass, so the dikes are very cared for and can, I don't know how you say that, they can keep the water from flooding from the big river that's close to my city. So it's actually a very sustainable option to get wool, because the wool is actually a product that has to be, I mean, the sheep have to be shorn, and they would throw the wool away actually.
Yeah.
So
that's when they use the sheep in like for keeping areas, they normally just burn the wool or throw it away.
Exactly, and especially because it's not a merino. It's a very soft wool. I mean, I've sorted it, and it's very soft, but it's not like a merino. It's not super silky, and so the wool doesn't have the same worth as a merino. So they would have thrown it away, and I got it now, and I sorted it, and now it's getting spun into a very local and very sustainable yarn.
I can't wait to see more. I don't know if I talked about, because I went last week or a couple of weeks ago to Jule, and I had some wool spun. I'm gonna have wool spun for the fall, and it's before I had the wool spun that is like as close to a pure Gotland that you can get with just a little bit of Falkland merino that they put in to spin the Gotland, because it's a little hard to spin. But this time I'm actually doing things differently, so it's going to be a different blend, and it's going to be a different... they're going to use local yarn only, so not yarn imported from the Falkland Islands, which I'm really excited about. So I will talk more about that when we get closer to it, but I also will have to go in the fall, so maybe we should go together and see if we can pick up yarn from the mill. It's 4 months, right? What did he tell you?
Yeah, I think they have a regular turnaround time of 3 months, but they have 1 month of holiday, so it's probably going to be 4 months.
So, and I think that's perfect for when we want to be knitting again, right?
Yeah.
Because right now it's a little bit hot to be knitting. I got some new yarn in the mail that I've been waiting for quite a long time, and that is the Woolberry. Let me see if I can make it wants to focus on our faces, of course. So kind of, maybe I would put in a little clip, but it's from Woolberry Fiber Co. She sent me these beautiful yarns. They are non-superwash but hand-dyed in the US, and what is it? It's merino, non-superwash merino, and it's 100 grams fingering. And the plan is to make a design for her woolen wardrobe. And I was really excited about it, but unfortunately it took like so many months to get here because of Corona and customs and stuff. But I am working on the little swatch in the round, trying to see if my idea will work out, and then I'm gonna have to be really quick writing the pattern. But I'm already so far behind because things didn't go as planned, and that happens a lot lately with the mail. So we just have to kind of be easy about it. And Bethany, who is the dyer behind Woolberry, she's really sweet, and she was like, "Don't worry, just take your time, get it ready," because I'm also working on some other deadlines at the moment. So that's the only thing I'm sorry?
You're busy.
Yeah, I'm busy. I'm trying to, and I'm actually taking some days off to have a good time. So this is the single pearl colorway, and then I have I think this is called toffee chips. I hope that you can see it. It's not gonna help if I show it to the camera. And this is it's called charcoal or something like that. Yeah, I will put it below in the show notes, as I always do. So these 3 colors are gonna be worked into a little summery something. Hopefully I can have it ready before the summer is over, because it takes some time before I have knitted the sample, have it tested, and then I can have the pattern ready. So that's the only thing new I have to show. What have you been knitting on?
Well, I've only been knitting on a very small project because I've really wanted to try a yarn that I had my eyes on for quite a while, and I really can't knit on big projects at this kind of heat.
No,
So
it's really
yeah,
it's really
I always
warm.
have to. I basically in summer I always knit socks, and so I got some sock yarn that's new from Garthenor. I don't know, you know it probably. It's like from the UK. It's an only all organic yarn brand, and they make a lot of single flock and single breed yarns, also in limited editions. And now they have like a new sock yarn that's actually really interesting because it's a single ply, which you would not normally consider to be the most sturdy and sock yarn suitable.
Yeah, you would want it to have
You would want it to have a lot of
twist
ply and
and
twist
twist,
to
yeah.
be really sturdy and
But
holding
it is
up.
quite twisty, right?
Yeah, but it's twisted very tightly, and I don't know if you can see, but the thread is really, I don't know, it's almost like curly, you know, from all the twist. And the fabric it makes is like really, I mean, you should knit it in a kind of a dense way. I mean, I've used 2.25 needles, and it's very dense, but it feels like very sturdy.
It feels very dense,
right?
It's, when you put you're not gonna see through it at
No,
all.
no.
It really knits up beautifully.
And it's a really
And
nicely.
very warm.
Yeah, and these are going to be winter socks for my boyfriend because he loves to wear.
And by the way, the boyfriend is sitting over there and being
We abandoned him.
pushed to the side because none of us like speaking next to him. So it's already awkward doing these podcasts, and then when somebody's sitting next to you, it's like, no.
Yeah. But at least he was going to have some nice
Some
socks
nice socks.
after this trip.
That's the first one, right? So
Yeah,
you
that's
still
the
have a
first
lot.
one. But I mean, when I came here, I started the heel.
Yeah.
I think when I came here, so I have made kind of a little bit of a
You
progress.
did a heel flap.
I
and
did a
gusset.
heel flip and gusset. Yeah, just
It's
a
quite a
regular
long
one.
heel, right? You do.
Yeah, because he has quite a high instep,
Yeah.
so I usually go for a little bit longer of a heel flap.
Yeah.
So,
But I think I always make them. I think it's worse if it's too short, right?
yeah,
It can almost never be too long.
yeah, exactly. I always go for a longer, like
Yeah.
2 rows longer than the pattern recommends
Yeah.
usually. At least for him, not for myself maybe, because I have quite small feet and I don't have a very high instep. So, but for him, I always do it this way. And the yarn is really, I mean, it surprised me a lot because when I got it, I felt like it's very, in the skein, it's not very
It's
soft.
not gonna work,
It's
right?
no, and it's very rustic when you
Yeah.
get it in the skein. And I'm not very sensitive or anything. I do like rustic yarns, but I thought, wow, this is really rustic.
I think what's interesting is because of it's single ply, it gets these like little rows.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of lies in.
And I have like a skein here where you can see how really curly it is when
I
you.
think we
when
will
you
try
get
to record a few bits afterwards and put them
Yeah.
into the video because I feel like we're really far away today
Yeah.
and just so you can see what we're talking
But maybe
about.
you can see how curly it is, you know? It's like not very smooth. It looks like very curly.
Ah, that's the skein.
That's the skein, and it's also
I would
really...
be a little disappointed. I'm not disappointed, but I would think, oh, that's not gonna knit up very nicely.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I was so curious about it, and it's really, it goes very smoothly, and also just touch the skein, it's like really rustic.
Oh yeah,
Really
that
rustic.
feels very different.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's, I think it's from Wales. Don't even ask
And
me
it
to
was 100%.
pronounce this.
There's no nylon anything, right?
No, it's non-superwash
Yeah.
and no nylon, and it's an organic Landwenok wool. I have no idea. This is Welsh. So
No, I have no idea how to say that either.
no, and it's 200 meters for 50 grams, so it's like a standard 4-ply or
What
fingering.
castan did you use?
The German
German
twisted
twisted?
cast. Yeah,
It's
so
very fitting for German.
Yeah.
Twisted castan. I'm sorry. We're really being silly. We talked
Yeah.
about all the fun stereotypes of
Yeah.
German
Yeah.
versus Danish.
Mhm.
Also because when they arrived, there's no really kitchen at the Airbnb. And what did you do?
we had a barbecue and had beer, like
German
German
sausage
stew.
and beer is German stew. At
Yeah.
least that's the stereotype, right?
Yeah,
we,
yeah,
we know
exactly.
that it's
We
not,
had to do it. So.
Yeah.
When you're in Denmark as a German, you have to do it.
That and eat the goodies from the bakery,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
We went to the bakery and someone was very happy
Yeah.
going in there.
Yeah, yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Exactly. And I don't think I can show a lot more because the other project I'm working on is a secret one in my rustic merino sport weight base, which I really like because we are using for this project, me and the designer, whom I'm not telling you now, we are using...
It is not me, by the way.
No,
It's not
actually no. It's we are using a combination of the natural sheep colors and some naturally dyed colors. So it's like it goes really well together, and I'm looking at it now, which is really bad.
Yeah, we're sitting and looking.
Yeah.
It's this is the best thing for podcasts, like all the things we cannot show you, all the
Yeah.
things next to us.
Yeah. Next time we will be prepared.
Yeah. And there's a chicken next to us now, talking. But yeah, the Grasgarn, the one from Jelholt, that one might be a little something happening with, as I said, little collaboration. But it takes time, right? It's always like a longer process, especially when you want to dye the yarn first and go through it that way. Yeah, why don't you talk about what you're wearing? I think that would be a nice...
Maybe that's another whip, or not the whip. It's a finished object. Because I don't know if many of you know, but I do sew a lot, and actually I'm working on.
And it's very beautifully made, I have to say.
Thank you. It's I sew a lot, and I try to make a fully handmade wardrobe, maybe by the end of this year.
Oh,
or something like that.
that's my dream, but
Yeah.
just I have a little less time.
Yes, of
for
course.
those
I mean, you
kind
have
of
kids.
things.
I don't have kids, so it's easier for me. But I'm also working full time, so I only sew on the weekends. And right now, with the whole situation, I didn't have a lot of time and whatever. But I managed to finish this one, and it's Merchant & Mills pattern. I think it's called Alice and Hattie. And you can make it in different ways, like with pockets, without, with longer sleeves, with no sleeves.
I don't know if you can see, but it has really nice darts in the neck.
It fits very nicely because it has like darts in here that you can add, and you can also like adjust them to your breast size, and it's really nice because for me, I have a very difficult, we talked about this before, I have a very difficult figure because I'm quite short, but still in some places I have some things that I have to adjust my clothes
Shapes,
to. You know,
womanly shapes.
Yeah,
right?
womanly shapes that I really have to somehow adjust my clothes to it. So this one turned out really nicely with the darts here, and it also has like it's gathered around here, and it has like a bit of a longer waist.
Maybe you can stand up a little bit.
Maybe
so
a little bit, just so you can see that it's gathered here, and it's really nice, and it's really cozy, and it's made out of linen that I bought from Berlin.
It's a beautiful linen.
And it's the best in this weather. I mean, I could have gone for no sleeves. That would have been even better.
It's nice to have some air, but I think linen is perfect.
But the linen is really good. It cools me, and it's really nice. Yeah.
I think what I like about this one, it has a little bit of a tailored look on top, but then it's very flowy. Yeah. So it doesn't. Sometimes if you wear these, I like these very loose dresses, but they can also look a little saggy.
Yeah, and you don't look really dressed up in it.
Like put together. And by the way, it has a really nice button in the back. If you can you turn more?
Yeah.
Can
also,
you turn your?
Also, we can tell the secret.
It has a nice little. I don't know if you can see a button and a keyhole. Yeah. And by the way, this is the tutu. I have gotten a lot of questions where my tutu is. This is not my tutu, this is Jule's tutu. Because I one time shared a picture of my, it was the Nerea sweater with the tattoo in the back, and that was Jule who knit that one, and that's her picture. So
it was actually a sample for Emma of Woolly Mammoth Feathers. Yeah, that was a really cool project.
So that was the dress. So what was the pattern again? It's
Ellis and Hattie, and it's like a 2 patterns in one thing, and I can really recommend it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's their most beginner friendly one. I mean, they have other ones that are even more beginner friendly, but if you have just a little bit of experience, you should be able to do it. I mean, also it has pockets, but you can just leave them if it's too complicated for you, or you don't bother about pockets. It's okay.
I think
it's very adjustable also. I mean, for me, I already made the shortest size and it didn't fit, so I could just easily cut it off, because there's not a
nice thing about
it's not very fitted. You know, you can just the skirt is just very flowy, and you could just cut it off and make it your own.
Yeah. And I actually also got some linen. Got it today in the mail, and it's really heavy. Yeah. I don't know if I got too much, but I kind of followed the pattern recommendations. Thank you. It's good to have a little helper when my brain is kind of going blank. And this is the same as I showed you. The top I was wearing in my last episode was from Linengraphy. And this is also from there. It's an Etsy shop, and they ship out from Lithuania. I think a lot of linen is made in Lithuania. It seems like there's a big production. So I got the 3 pieces of fabric, and it's quite heavy.
Yeah, like linen is quite
very
heavy.
Nice, and but not when you touch the thing in itself. And I'm planning to make, as I talked about last time, I'm planning to make another hinterland dress, but kind of get with some adjustments for the fit. And thank you for everyone who suggested how to fix the very open neckline. So I am planning to make in either, I got a green and a brown, like a very warm brown and a foresty dark green, which I think they are very beautiful with a little, how you call it, check pattern in white. So I have these 2, and the other one I'm planning to make is the Merchant and Mills factory dress, but probably hacking it a little bit, so to get the waistline more like the one you're wearing actually. Yeah. And then I got 1 piece of undyed linen, and I want to make a maxi skirt out of that, and it would probably be like I can't remember the name still. It's from So Liberated, and it's she has a skirt pattern with buttons and big pockets, which I think will be very nice. So I have a lot to play with, and I also think these, if I have some leftovers, they would be really nice for project bags. Oh yeah. Don't you think? I think so. So it's always good that you can use your leftover linens for something.
You can use them for everything,
nice.
Like for jam covers or stuff.
Yeah. So with this warm weather, it's really sewing. You get really in the mood for sewing, right? Don't you,
yes,
don't you
yes. For me, definitely, that's it.
I mean, don't sew much in the winter, do you?
Well, I do, but mostly because I notice that I need more clothes, like in wintry colors, and then I decide to sew some. So.
Yeah.
But I can really imagine you walking around the little forest that we just saw this morning. With
she went for a walk,
yeah.
In my forest. And as I was saying, sometimes with the whole Instagram thing, it's like I show only little parts of my life, right? So things look different in real life, do you think?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean,
it's not so bad, right? It's
no,
not like I'm hiding everything.
No, not at all. I mean, I feel like the whole vibe is just you, and I can feel like it's the way. If you come here, it's like in the podcast.
If you come to visit me.
It is as nice as in the videos.
Oh, that's nice.
Actually. Yeah.
But and so I'm really in the mood for sewing, and I sewed a little shirt. I sewed another dress for my girl, which I don't have it here, but just like a smock dress. They're the easiest things to make. Smock dresses, if you have children, like girls or boys, anyone who wants to wear a dress, right? If you have children, then you just take a square piece of fabric hem the bottom, hem the top, and then do the smocking.
Yeah.
Smocking, right? Or shearing?
Oh,
Because
I'm not
I
sure.
googled it and I got shearing and smocking and.
For me, it's difficult
Maybe
because I learned sewing from my mom at a very young age, so
Yes,
I
I
know
was
all
wondering.
those very old school German ways of explaining. And it was pretty hard for me to
Yeah.
adjust to English
Okay.
patterns, even though knitting for me is totally natural in
Yeah.
English, but sewing was a bit more difficult. So I'm not sure how it's called, but I know what you mean.
when you have the under thread is a elastic thread,
Yeah.
and you it just kind of creates this waffly effect all over the body, and
So it fits snug in
yeah,
the,
and then
in
you
the
put
body.
straps on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's the easiest dress to make
Yeah.
for children.
It is.
So I made that, and I'm planning to make her another dress that I think I talked about before. It's a pattern that I use sometimes. Now I cannot remember, but that doesn't matter. I made this one for myself, which is still not hemmed, so there are threads everywhere. But I shared it on Instagram, and I did a little in the stories about how I should make the sleeves, and I think they turned out quite nice.
Yeah,
with
it's really
these,
nice.
Oops, and it fell off. With these bell sleeves, and it has a keyhole in the back as well. I like that detail with a bow, so I just kind of have to finish it off. And it's a double gauze with the broderie anglaise. I don't know how to say that.
Like in English embroidery.
But I guess it doesn't. It's probably called the same in English.
It's actually called the same in German, I know, but
It's French, like French lace kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So it will be very nice once I finish it up, but getting the time
Once
to
you can find the time, yeah.
finding the time, because I didn't say that in the beginning, but I went to Ero in the week, not in the weekend, from Monday to Wednesday. We went to an island not so far away called Ero. It's quite big. We took the ferry and the kids and just had a little Airbnb there, and it was very nice. The weather has been so beautiful, and it was actually the summer solstice celebration. Do you have it in Germany too?
Not really, but I know that it's very popular here.
So we do the. It's not on the actual solstice. It's called Sankt Hans, and it's like Saint Hans, Saint something, and so we celebrate the saint, but it's pretty much just the pagan tradition of burning a fire and celebrating the summer solstice, just with a Christian name. I don't think there's anything Christian about that celebration. And
doesn't sound like
people still generally make this cloth witches that they burn on top of the fire, which I think is kind of terrible, but that's part of the tradition. And then we sing a song. People stand around the big bonfires and sing a song. So that happened while we were at Ero, and it's really nice to see, and just celebrates the longest days, and they're really long right now, right?
They're really long, but it gets dark really suddenly then in the evening.
Yesterday I had to bike home and it got really dark, so it happens. And we went to Ero, and then I came back, and then Jule and Christoph was already here. So I haven't had. This week I took off. So also, if you're waiting for a reply from me and anything, I'm just taking time off. It's really nice for once. I pretty much. So we just had to move the camera a little bit because it was getting way too hot in the sun. I was talking about Ero, I think, that we went there, and then you came to visit and holiday. I don't know. We don't know what we're talking about. I think for the last bit of this episode, we would like to talk a bit about the natural dyeing process, and because that's what you really know a lot about. And I think it's really interesting, all the work that goes into natural dyeing yarn. Because normally people maybe just see the price tag and they're like, that's really expensive, but actually it's a lot of work and a lot of research that goes into it as well, right?
Yeah.
Before you can get started.
Yeah, the research part is like, and you never stop learning. Like you have to research a lot before you start natural dyeing to somehow understand what kind of results you will get. It's like a chemistry class in school. You need to know what reacts with what, and it's like, you really have to learn in the beginning. I really felt like I was still studying when I started dyeing, and I really felt like at some point my brain was almost like filled with everything because it was so much to learn, and I didn't know that before, but I was really dedicated to learn everything about it and start doing it, because I don't know, natural dyes for me are something so magical because you know, it's from plants that are growing like around your house even, and you can just use them to create beautiful colors, and you can mix them, and it's something
You take something from nature and make something different. It's not like man-made in that way.
Exactly, and it's I feel like it's such a nice thing to work with when you spend so much time on knitting, you know, when you're knitting a project that takes so much time, and it's so nice to know where everything comes from, like from the fiber and also the color, where it comes from and how it has been processed. So for me, it was a hard decision. When I thought about setting up my business, I wasn't sure if I should go for natural dyes or like chemistry, acid dyes or anything. I really had like a sweet spot for natural dyes in my heart, but I knew that there are some disadvantages when you think about sustainability, especially like because the whole, I mean, it sounds like natural dyeing always
you would
sounds
think
like
it's better than the
it's
acid
so much
dyes.
better, but the problem is that natural dyes do take a lot of resources like water and electricity. I mean, the natural
more
dyeing,
than the
a lot more, because the natural dyeing process, for example, takes a lot of time, because you have to heat up the dye bath and with the wool inside, and it has to cool down, and in between you have to dye it for at least an hour to make the color stick to the yarn. And also before you even dye, you have to mordant the yarn, which means you add a kind of a binding agent to the yarn that helps the color bind to the yarn. And these are two processes that are actually not necessary for if you dye with acid dyes. That's basically, you put some acid in it and the colors, and it sticks to the yarn. So you use a lot more water and electricity when you use natural dyes, actually. And that was an aspect, because sustainability is the core of what I do, and it's very important to me, and I really want to respect the natural resources I'm using. And so I spent at least months thinking about how I could overcome these disadvantages of using more water and electricity. And so I really try to figure out ways to how to reuse water and how to create a little bit more of a sustainable dyeing process. And by now I'm pretty happy. I mean, I'm reusing dye baths, for example, a lot of times, and also when I'm rinsing yarn, I'm trying to make it in a way that I don't have to use too much water. Like, for example, one of the processes I really like is to let the dyed yarn dry before I rinse it, because that way more dye stays in the skein, and I don't have to use so many rinse baths, you know.
But that also shows just how long the process is, right? Of course, it's not like if you cannot say dyeing one skein takes 3 days, because it's not 3 days of full-time work.
No.
How many days does it take from when you start until you're finished? Not in the that you use the whole day for it, but how many days do you have to?
Well, if I should calculate maybe in hours, it's like mordanting from like the dried wool to the mordanted wool takes at least like 5 hours, like until it's cooled down, because the problem, or not the problem, but I work with non-superwash yarns only, and the problem from a dyer's perspective is that superwash yarns, they don't felt, but non-superwash yarns, they can felt if you shock them too much with temperature.
So you have to be really careful.
Yeah, you have to be careful. You cannot just lift it out of the hot bucket with the dye bath in it. You just have to leave it to cool down, and that takes at least, I don't know, for me it takes at least 4 to 5 hours.
So
on colder days.
It's really like a puzzle where you have to kind of think through. So while this is cooling down, I can do something else, right? Because I remember I tried it one time, and I'm not going to be an expert on natural dyes, but I really thought it was something for me, and the whole process for me was just I couldn't figure out how to spend the time wisely between. I mean, probably I could have learned, right? But it kind of that part of the process is it was surprising for me, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, and especially also the drying part. I mean, for me, I do get the best results if I let my mordanted, like the prepared yarn, dry completely before dyeing it again. Then I let it dry completely until I rinse it again. So you can imagine it takes a pretty long while, and I've tried to find a good workflow where I can use the cooling time in between. Well, I mean, I do most of my admin work and stuff while the yarn is cooling. but also it really depends on the season, because
So you have to be good at multitasking.
Yes,
right? To
yes,
do this.
yeah, you
like
have
you have
to
to always have something else
Yeah.
happening at the same time,
Exactly.
right? To use the time well.
Yeah,
to-
and it doesn't always work. I mean, sometimes I'm also trying to pack orders while my yarn is drying or something, and sometimes it doesn't work because I don't want to let people wait for until I will dye yarn on the
Yeah.
weekend. So yeah, it's a bit difficult to juggle everything, but the process still is very soothing because it's so slow. I mean, sometimes it's not easy to organize everything, but generally I would say I like the slowness of this process, and knowing how much time goes into every skein of yarn that I'm making, it makes me happy about the end product. Like, I don't know. For me, this is something I really want to dedicate everything I know to this whole project and my yarn, and it's very important to me that I'm happy about the end product and that all those puzzle pieces are
And
tying
that's also
in.
what you buy when you buy hand dyed. Like, first of all, if you buy hand dyed yarn, no matter if it's dyed one way or the other, you buy a product that's really handmade.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, you can say any kind of clothes you buy, even if it's fast fashion, it's handmade. But this way, you know who made it, right? The hands that made it, and
Exactly.
and you know that you were paid well, or at least to some extent, right? But it must be hard to price the yarn then for you.
It's really hard, especially also because the dye stuffs have a different price point. I mean, for example, the dye stuff called cochineal is made from a bug. It's a very traditional, very old school dye actually. But to get the dye out of those bugs, it takes a lot of steps, and it's very difficult and it's very expensive. Same like for indigo, which most people of you probably know. And there are some dye stuffs that are just widely available, and so they don't cost as much. So it's very difficult sometimes. Sometimes I have big differences in my costs when it comes to different colorways. Actually, it depends on what I'm using, and I always try to find a way to balance it and also still make it kind of affordable to people. I don't want to put the price point like too high.
Of course, because then people won't buy it, right? Or
No, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I still want to keep it like as accessible as I can and not overdo like the pricing and everything. But still, you really have to know that you have to reuse your dye baths. For example, if you're doing a deep color, you have to use like a lot of dye stuff, and if you would only sell that one color and not use the dye bath again anymore, it's not economical at all, and also not ecological, of course, because you would only use that one dye bath. But you really have to think that through, and sometimes the biggest challenge for me is that I want to create one certain color, and I know I will have to create 3 to 4 after that, just to use up every little bit of dye.
So every time it gets less intense, right? Like
exactly.
more
And sometimes
lighter and lighter, right?
Yeah, and the problem for me is I'm very particular about what colors I like, and for me, when I dye like a very deep yellow, I'm not very happy with the buttery, very light yellow that comes out after. So I have to find a way, like this is how my colorways, like the yellow and the green, are coming together, because the second dye bath of my very deep yellow colorways, I add some blue to it, so I can get like a green that only has like the little bit of a yellow touch. So you have to get really creative.
A lot of thought goes into to the process. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and that's also probably why the price point is that high for naturally dyed yarns.
But we were talking about the whole thing with expensive, like more expensive clothes, right, and more expensive yarn, because I think I think many of us, when we grow up, we have this point where you can buy a lot of clothes cheap, and that feels really great. But then you realize you don't wear that clothes as often, or they get very little wear. It's too fashiony piece, or it's only for very hot days, and we don't have many of those, even if we have today, right? Yeah. So if you kind of think a little bit more about what you make, both when it comes to clothes or what you buy, if you buy from a sustainable brand, they're normally more expensive, but then maybe you think, okay, I really want a practical dress I can wear every day. Yeah. Then I think you can better justify the price point. Yeah. If you think, okay, this is something I will get a lot of wear out of, and the same with knitting. If you really know that I'm gonna make a beautiful item that I will get a lot of wear out of, or a lot of joy out of making, then it should also be made with nice yarn, instead of buying cheap yarn and maybe making a lot more, then I think it's nice if you can enjoy the process, really enjoy the yarn you're working with, and I think you will enjoy the end result much more as well.
Exactly. And I know that it can be difficult, like the price point can be a problem for some people, and I am always thinking about ways on how I can like make it more accessible, but I have to be very honest about I cannot go very much lower than I am right now, because I would not be able to sustain myself or sustain my shop in a way that I am right now.
Yeah.
So that's the problem why, because I mean, I don't get like a lot of comments on this, but I know that there are people who think it's not very accessible to produce hand-dyed yarns at this price point, but I just want to make very clear that it's not.
But that is kind of it has to be this.
Yeah.
It has to cost this much, because if not, we are back to this fast fashion way. It's produced in a not sustainable way, not only from an environmental point of view, but also from the human point of view, right? That if you're producing yarn or producing clothes in a way that is not good for that the people are underpaid, then you are in a vicious cycle, right? So does it mean? It means that the yarn is not for everyone.
Yeah,
it has
of course.
to be in some ways.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you have to get cheap acrylic yarn to make some. You can get other yarns. I often talk about other kind of yarns that are not so expensive. The grass yarn, was that expensive? I don't think it's very
I think
expensive, for example.
I think it was 80
Yeah.
kronas
The
per
one
100
we
grams.
showed
That's
you.
about
Yeah.
like 11 euros if you would.
So there are yarns you can get, but then maybe you are not able to afford hand-dyed yarn every time.
Yeah.
But I don't do that either. I think I choose hand-dyed yarn sometimes for specific projects, right? Or naturally dyed hand yarns. But it's all about maybe deciding I really want that one special project, and then saving up for a little bit instead of buying a lot of cheap yarn that anyway you won't enjoy as much.
Exactly. And what I'm
That's
trying
how it's accessible, right?
Yeah.
To make it.
And so what I'm trying to do sometimes is, especially for color work sweaters, like the project I'm working on right now is like combining the naturally colored, like the sheepy naturally colored yarns with some naturally dyed ones. So this project I'm working on right now is the main body is just the natural color of the sheep. So that yarn I didn't dye, so I can offer it for another price. And I'm also offering like naturally sheep colored yarns in my shop already, because I want people to be able to get something that's not that expensive, and also you can combine it. Like I will show that project later.
I think actually that's one of the nicest ways, that you have a base color that is more natural, and then you can add on top.
And also I will try to make like smaller amounts available. Like if you want to do only a color work yoke, you don't always need
like
a
mini
full
skein.
100. A full 100 gram skein. So mini skeins are a good option. But that's also one thing I want to say about the whole process. One last thing that's about the hand dyed aspect is many people forget that it's not only a craft, it's not only like doing something small with your hands, it's actually hard work.
Yeah, it's hard for the back as well, the arms and lifting.
And especially like also if you, speaking of mini skeins, if you try to wind, I mean I wind everything by hand. So I'm using like, I have a Swift with a little knob that I can use. And sometimes when I have to do like about 50 mini skeins, you can imagine how long it takes and how exhausting
that also
that is.
adds to the price, right?
Exactly. I mean, I have to do all this by hand, and also like lifting wet wool and stuff. It's actually hard work, and I do enjoy it, because for me that's the only kind of workout I do. And I feel good after a good dyeing session. I can go to bed and I can sleep very well, because I've moved my body like a lot, and it's very heavy lifting all the time. But it feels really good, and I like. Because my university and also my work is very head heavy, so it's a very nice
with
way.
a manual, and you sleep much better after, right?
It's very nice.
I think that's what I discovered. I didn't really enjoy the process, so I think if to make this a career, you have to really like it, right?
Yeah.
Like to be a knitwear designer, you really have to like. It's not. Sometimes it seems like easy jobs or something. Like everyone can dye some colors, everyone can create a knitwear pattern, but it is actually. It has to be your heart has to really be in it. If not, I think it's not gonna work, right?
Exactly.
But with any kind of small business, you have to be
passionate.
in it. all. I think so. Is there anything else we should mention when talking about?
No, not really. I mean, the only thing I would like to say maybe is that I'm always down for answering questions.
Yeah,
but maybe
we can
something
do a little.
and we were talking about this earlier, that even though if you look at my Instagram, like you would not know what I'm doing behind the scenes, because I'm not very good at sharing sometimes.
A little more private, right?
Yeah. And also, I don't want to stress this too much, but I'm working full time, so it's not easy for me to be on Instagram as much and as open as I would like to be, because I just cannot find the time to put the words right and everything. So I still like it a lot, and I really want to find more time, maybe after the summer also. But if there are any questions about natural dyeing, I mean, I'm very open about it, and I don't want to keep like all my secrets for myself. And
I think it's nice to share your craft. We talked about this too, that I try to share freely my knowledge about yarn, and it just takes a lot of time for me to put together videos about this, but I have plans, as I talked about before, to share about how to knit a sweater and so on. It will all be coming, but I think it's nice when you can share your knowledge, so it can benefit others. As I said, if you don't have your heart in it anyway, you're not gonna make it as a. It's not like everyone can then just go and be a knitwear designer, right? You have to have ideas, and the same with dyeing.
Yeah, I don't see other dyers as like my competition or anything. I feel like everyone is a very. I mean, I admire other crafters.
More like colleagues, right?
Yeah, it's more like colleagues, and I do buy naturally dyed yarns from other dyers, of course, because I'm so interested in what they're doing, how they're doing it, and it's not, for me, it's not like a competitor or anything. I don't think it's a thing of you buy this or you buy that. If you like a person or a person's business views,
and your colorways and your
that
yarn
decision,
choice.
and that decision is something else. I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
You should show the yarn, by the way. You have some yarn bases.
Oh yes,
we didn't talk about those.
Maybe we should have a little,
because one of the things I like about, sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead.
One of the things I like about Jule's yarns is she dyes on these very nice natural rustic bases, like with the story behind, or you kind of spend a lot of time deciding what to dye on, right? It's not just buying in bulk from
no, not at all. I buy from various places. I didn't make it easy for myself, because I'm always trying to find bases that tick all boxes for me, and that's not easy actually. I mean, it might be because I'm also very picky about some things, but still I want to have bases I dye on that are worth the work that I've previously mentioned, like that I'm happy to dye on and spend all the time with. So I'm constantly trying to get new bases and discover new bases that are as local and as sustainable as possible. So maybe I can take this opportunity to show you some new ones that I'm trying. One of them being a very special one that's actually from a German breed that's called Coburger Fuchsschaf, and it's an endangered breed as well. So, but
the last bit of the name is fox.
It's fox sheep. Yeah, it's like Coburg fox sheep, and it has like a very rusty brownish tint to it, and that's also why it's endangered, because the fleeces are not very attractive for the big industry, because they're not plain white. They are a little bit more.
They're harder to dye.
Yeah, it's not for the industrial standards. It doesn't work.
Then it would work better with something like very plain, right?
Exactly, and so this is why this breed is not very widely available anymore. And actually, this base is spun and is sourced and spun organically. So it's actually
that's very nice.
It's a very nice base, and it has like a 300 meters per 100 grams, which is a nice sport weight. But I think you could also knit it up as a fingering for accessories, for example.
It's not very thick.
It's not very thick, and it's not very airy or anything. You can also I would see this very nice like in mittens and these kind of things. So this is a new base that I'm trying. I always try to knit with the bases in the natural color before I even start dyeing or considering them for the shop, because I feel like that's the way I can
get to know them properly.
Yeah. And same with this one. This is another new one. It's actually I've been searching for a fingering weight that's actually German. I mean sourced in Germany, and I've been searching for that forever. It has taken me almost 2 years.
It's funny how some things are just hard to find, right?
Maybe it's because I think it's because German tradition stories here. in the southern German part, where knitting and wool production is still the most active part of Germany that's still producing wool. They used to knit a piece that's called Janka. I think I'm from the north, so I don't exactly know, but I've heard that. They used to knit
now
these
you get
Jankas.
all the comments from the southern Germans.
I can already see.
Yeah.
But it's like a jacket that's knit on a very, very tight gauge. Like you would use like a worsted weight and knit it on a
I've
3
seen
millimeters.
the pattern from Hey Mama Wolf. Is it true she has a pattern for this?
I don't know.
I think she has a jacket that is this kind of
yeah, it
thing.
might be, and that's like the kind of, and also in Austria, like the southern part of Germany and Austria, they're pretty close when it comes to some traditions. And these kind of, I think it was very popular to knit these kind of jackets on a very tight gauge. So most yarns were just a bit
so
thicker.
it would be a bit more windproof, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
last longer and all this.
Yeah, and those kind of this style of knitting, I mean, using a very tight gauge, you always had a very heavyweight wool to use with. So spinning something that is like a 400 meters per 100 grams, like a fingering, is not very popular. So yeah, this took me a long time to source, and this is a fingering base from all German sheep, and it's very bouncy. The spinning, the makeup, you said that, no? It's really...
Yeah. It has a nice elastic
yeah,
give.
it's very unusually spun, and I will actually, let me see if I can, I don't think I have the other one here, but I have another one that's actually in a naturally sheepy grey, and I will make the woodlark.
Yes!
Out of those natural
colours.
colours.
To see. Yeah.
It's gonna be very awesome. Also my first sneaking project.
I think talking about the traditional way of knitting, it was the same I think everywhere in the north at least, that things were knit at a much tighter gauge and like with smaller needles and having a very dense fabric, because it really had to last, right? And if it felted a little bit, then even better.
Even better, yeah.
I know in the western part of Denmark there were a lot of knitting tradition, because the land was not very good for farming. So there were men and women were knitting, and there was this whole kind of business, and they knit this very densely knit garment, like stockings and so on, that were really would last for a very long time. So yeah.
And that's why I think in the northern parts of Europe it's very popular to have very thick or heavyweight yarns, right? Yeah, that's it. But now I'm very happy that I found those two new.
They didn't show the
oh well, but that's the one I already had in my
okay, so you have.
shop
so
before.
if people would like to, what do they have names? How do you do that?
They don't have names yet, because I'm still just testing, and I'm not sure. This one is the organic sock base that I used to have, that you were knitting a pair of socks out of as well. But this is.
But I didn't recognize it because it's white.
I used to have only a white version, but now there's a grey version available. And
those are my Christmas socks, if you remember. They are the speckled green and red that I'm still knitting on from time to time.
Yeah, and this is like naturally from the sheep, a natural grey, and I love to dye on different sheepy colors. I always dye on different, like beige.
Yeah, the greys give a nice.
Yeah, especially the deeper tones.
I'm excited to see how this one how it will react.
Yeah, me too.
With this reddish undertone.
I'm really curious on.
It's so nice because I would try to make little clips, but it has like white with the orangey red hair. It's very.
Yeah, it's like a gingery,
nice.
ginger sheep.
Ginger sheep.
Yeah, and that's I love to dye on all kinds of different undertones, because I don't know, I get bored by only dyeing white yarn. Actually, I do like the depth of everything. I'm thinking about, okay, if I would use this and this color and on this and this grey or beigey base, I don't know, it really challenges me, and I like that kind of challenge.
It's very interesting. I'm happy you wanted to tell a little bit more about what you do. It's really interesting to hear about, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about what goes into making the yarn. I mean, I make my own yarn, but that's just the undyed version, right? And it's really adding an extra step to get those beautiful colors, and I think natural colors really has something special about them. But yeah, go check Julie out. Jule.
That's okay.
It's because I've been mentioning Julie of Sweetsbury Yarns a lot in my previous patterns. That's why I called you that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Go check Jule out on her Instagram and your shop at Woollentwine. And also give her a little comment that she should try to start her own podcast. I think you're good at it. That would be really nice. Yeah, and I was.
She has been forcing me for months.
Yeah,
already.
I'm trying to.
She's like, do a
So,
podcast.
I think it's nice because with the podcast I feel like I know people, but now we know each other in real life. But
Yeah.
just when you cannot know people in real life, so I have to go and get the kids now. So I have to run, and I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.